A very good evening to you. Thanks for clicking on to this US winter forecast discussion. Of course, the official forecast was released last evening, and I hope you've had a chance to take a read of it and see what I've got to say regarding the pattern and what much of the United States can expect over the course of the upcoming winter season. I think over the next few weeks we're going to see the building of Arctic air over the polar region, so therefore we're going to start to see, and we are seeing at the moment, not only the retreat of Arctic and cold air back up into the far northern part of Canada, and of course we're going to see a more zonal, strong Pacific driven pattern. What that means is a storm track centered up towards the Pacific Northwest, the Washington and Oregon coast. I think over the next few weeks, folks, we're actually going to see the biggest snows of the season overall for this region. So, the Olympics, the Cascades, up into the northern Rockies as well. I think we're going to see the biggest amounts of snow over the next few weeks. So up until around the 5th, the 10th of December, I think we're going to see the building of the snowpack. Beyond that period, I think we're going to start to see a pretty significant change. In fact, up until now, we've seen the trough bias towards the west, and of course, because of that, we've seen more ridging over the eastern part of the United States. Of course, many of you across the east has been quite frustrated by the mild autumn, but we are going to start to see changes. I think we are. I'm anticipating a pretty strong flip to a negative Arctic oscillation as well as a North Atlantic oscillation. But if we see a few weeks of a more positive Arctic oscillation, that means to say we can start to see the really intensification of the severe cold, the reservoir of Arctic air over the northern hemisphere build over this region. Gives a chance for the Pacific Northwest to see its big snows, plenty of storm action in from the Pacific Ocean. That as well will deflect any cold air back up into Canada. So we are going to see little in the way of decent or substantial cold, I believe, across the United States over the next few weeks. However, once we start to see the month of December arrive, I think we're going to start to see those changes. I believe the ridge over the North Pacific will start to migrate eastwards, and that means to say as well that milder air will get then transported up the western side of North America, and all the accumulated, built-up Arctic air, severe Arctic air by this stage at around, say, perhaps around the 10th of December onwards, we're going to start to see this cold begin to bleed south through Canada and towards the United States. I am concerned as well that we're going to start to see the Clipper machine start to activate itself from the Alberta Rockies systems, starting to drop into an increasingly deep trough over the northern plains. I think we're going to continue to see milder conditions further east along the eastern seaboard. I think we actually might see the majority of December milder than normal, and that would certainly lead many people in a false sense of security, I think. But I think we need to pay attention closely to increasing amounts of snowfall, snowstorms that are dropping down in on a strengthening northwesterly jet stream. That's going to force systems down. It's going to, of course, expand snow cover across the northern tier, down further and further south into the lower Midwest and the Ohio Valley as well. As the month of December starts to wear on, behind these systems, we're going to see increasingly colder air, of course, more Yukon or Alaska type cold, start to bleed its way south of the Canadian border. I think this will then set the scene. At this stage, as the Arctic oscillation is becoming more and more negative, I'm then starting to watch out over the North Atlantic and Greenland, watching for that Greenland block to set up. As that high pressure then builds up over Greenland forces mild oceanic Atlantic air well up over the Greenland ice sheet. Then we start to see the trough as it increases over the central plains into the Midwest. I think it'll start to, it'll push its way in towards the eastern seaboard. I'm very concerned that we're going to see a few significant snowstorms from Minot, North Dakota through Fargo, into Minneapolis, Madison, Chicago, down into Indianapolis, and into the central Ohio region. I think we're going to see significant snowstorms. It's going to boost snowpacks and snow totals well above seasonal average. And then I think as that then shifts eastwards, we start to look towards the eastern seaboard. As the North Atlantic Oscillation becomes more and more negative, watch out for the eastern seaboard around the 18th through Christmas. We could be starting to watch nor'easters, systems riding the east coast, and that is where I think the I-95 corridor from perhaps just north of DC up through Philadelphia into Trenton, New York City, Hartford, Boston, Providence as well. I think that's where you're going to start to see your snowfall, biggest snowfall of the season. I think you then could start to see more average snowfalls. You get one or two, three perhaps systems right up, producing maybe 3 to 6 inches of snowfall, maybe the odd one that produces a foot of snow. That is where you're going to see your seasonal snow totals average out near normal or even slightly above normal. Once that all this action takes place from the period around the 18th of December through Christmas, then we're watching the mother lode of Arctic air drop down into the Midwest, producing frigid conditions. And I think I'm concerned that while the West remains more calm, more quiet, milder conditions as that ridge is right up towards Alaska, all that cold that has been allowed to build up from this point onwards, from around the 22nd of November right up into the midpoint of December. Remember, all that Arctic air is charging up thanks to a positive Arctic oscillation. All this will then get pushed down into the Midwest and the eastern seaboard. And I think that's when the coldest weather will hit, sometime around Christmas through the first or second week of January. The Arctic high pressure will then anchor itself over this region. Of course, all this region stretching from the northern plains down towards DC, up the eastern seaboard, I think will be blanketed in perhaps a foot or more snowfall, snow cover. And I think that means to say that we're going to see minimum weakening of that Arctic high pressure at this point on. Later on in the season, I think we'll see the retreat of the trough back westwards. I think we're going to see a return to cooler conditions towards the Rockies and the west, and we'll then see milder conditions across the eastern part of the United States. But I am concerned that the severity of the cold that we see during the midpoint of winter may be strong enough to outweigh the milder conditions both at the start of winter as well as the end of winter. I think the core of the cold will then set itself up 3 to 6 degrees below normal quite easily for the winter combined from Fargo down through Indianapolis into central Ohio, perhaps even down towards Kentucky as well. So a significant winter. Milder conditions overall across the west coast, down through the Four Corners, across the southern plains, up into the southeast, and perhaps towards the mid-Atlantic. We'll see a milder overall winter, less snowfall as well. But certainly the points that I've highlighted, I think we'll see a significantly cold winter ahead. And certainly stay tuned. Continue to check out the latest updates here on the weather and climate through the eyes of Mark Owen. Hope you have a terrific evening, folks. Bye for now.